Hey, welcome in. Well, I originally did a video on this guy a few months ago after he'd said some nice things about Andy Ngo, who has written the recent book about Antifa, which the left really doesn't like, because they don't want people to know what they actually are, or that they're even a real thing. And in any case, it didn't go over well in the media. They didn't like that, so he issued a groveling apology, which I would say was most shameful indeed, but it appears he's had a change of heart, and I think a crisis of conscience. Good for him. Let's take a look at it. Mumford & Sons guitarist announces he's leaving band to speak his mind on political issues. And you only have to do that if you're not echoing whatever the mainstream media narrative is. If he was going around wearing Che Guevara t-shirts and raising his fist in the communist salute, it would be no problem whatsoever. He'd have no issues. But to be rational, and I would say moderate, this is what it takes apparently now. He said, quote, "I could remain and continue to self-censor, but it will erode my sense of integrity." So yeah, it sounds like a crisis of conscience for him. So what happened to him was that a woke online mob attacked Marshall in March, likening him to a Nazi, of course, because everybody is. There's one under every bed. After he praised conservative journalist Andy Ngo for his brave documentation of Antifa's political extremism and violence in the book Unmasked. And of course, Andy Ngo himself was attacked and brutally beaten by Antifa, to the point of having a brain hemorrhage. And here's what he looked like after that attack in Portland. So I guess these days, documenting political extremism and violence makes you far right, I guess. I don't know. None of it makes any sense, does it? But sadly, Winston Marshall at that time immediately issued a groveling apology. Here it is. "I have offended not only a lot of people I don't know, but also those closest to me, including my bandmates, and for that I am truly sorry. As a result of my actions, I am taking time away from the band to examine my blind spots." That's typical cringe language. We've all heard it before, and it's sad. And that's just for praising a journalist. A journalist. Just going to interrupt for 1 second to say, if you like this content, subscribe so you can see more. Thanks a lot. But anyway, it looks like he's thought about it. He's come back stronger. And good for him. This is excellent. It says here he's come to regret his disavowal, saying in a farewell letter to Medium, quote, "The truth is that reporting on extremism at the great risk of endangering oneself is unquestionably brave. I also feel that my previous apology in a small way participates in the lie that such extremism does not exist, or worse, is a force for good." And of course, that is the mainstream narrative. Oh, and by the way, it's mostly peaceful. That burning building behind me, yeah, it's mostly peaceful. So I like this, and this is precise language, the kind of precise language that we need. The lie that such extremism does not exist, or worse, is a force for good, which of course is just an integral part of the gaslighting that happens from teleprompter readers every single night. Anyway, he said that while he abhors both far-left and far-right fanaticism, he sees nothing wrong with being conservative. And here's the thing, being against both far-left and far-right fanaticism, which is where I am, and I think most people are, that has somehow been categorized now as somehow far-right or extreme in itself. It is truly bizarre. Saying, I'm against any kind of authoritarianism, and I don't care which side it comes from. That in itself has somehow been sold as far-right and extremist in and of itself. It is truly bizarre. I mean, how has it come to pass that, defense of free speech, of free expression for everybody is now considered as somehow a symbol of intolerance? It's truly bizarre. Anyway, he described his own views as fluttering between centrist, liberal, or the more honest, bit this, bit that, which is most people, isn't it? And added, quote, "Being labeled erroneously just goes to show how binary political discourse has become." And I think what's really salient to this is that a lot of the fault here falls on traditional liberals, real liberals, who've been afraid of being categorized or tainted with something that they just with something they just find inherently distasteful in some way. You don't want to be you don't want somebody to say you're a conservative. Oh God, no. But I think a lot of just normal liberals, like this guy, are starting to see the writing on the wall. Because, the left now is not liberal, it's illiberal. Is not liberal. The two used to be synonymous with each other. Left, liberal, they used to be the same thing. They're not. There's the left now, and there's liberals. There's a lot of people calling themselves liberal who are not liberal. They're illiberal. They're leftists. Guess what? If you want to ban every bit of speech that you don't like, you're not a liberal. You're a leftist, and you should stop lying about what you are. But in any case, I think people of good conscience are starting to say, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being conservative. There's nothing wrong with not being a leftist authoritarian, because that's not what I signed up for. Sorry. But anyway, I applaud this guy for correcting his mistake. And we need more people who would have considered themselves, probably leaning to the left, or what the left used to be, to recognize what is reality and to not worry about the stigma that might be placed on them by fanatics and cult members. I mean, who is this guy? Well, here's one thing he's done. Earlier this year, Marshall co-founded the Hong Kong Link Up, a charity that works to integrate Hong Kongers settling in Britain because of increasingly political repression in the semi-autonomous Chinese city-state. That doesn't sound like a Nazi to me. I mean, here's the website, Hong Kong Link Up. Hong Kong Link Up is a non-profit organization which aims to link up British residents with Hong Kongers arriving in the UK. So I would assume these are people that are pro-democracy, so the left won't like this either. Actually, he's probably a Nazi for doing this. And I really wonder if he realized after a few months after the apology that, in fact, there is no forgiveness from the group of fringe lunatics that run social media. So you might as well go out, standing instead of on your knees. Anyway, on that apology that he made, he said, "In the mania of the moment, I was desperate to protect my bandmates. The hornet's nest that I had unwittingly hit had unleashed a black-hearted swarm on them and their families." So his bandmates and their families. Because that's how the mob operates, right? Crush, crush, crush. They want to crush you and your family. They want to make sure that nobody ever disagrees with them publicly again. Anyway, he quoted Solzhenitsyn here from a famous essay, "Live not by lies." And what is the quote? "And he who is not sufficiently courageous to defend his soul, don't let him be proud of his progressive views." Keep in mind, this is Solzhenitsyn talking decades ago about Soviets and their progressive views. "And don't let him boast that he is an academic, I guess, or a people's artist, a distinguished figure or a general. Let him say to himself, I am a part of the herd and a coward. It's all the same to me as long as I'm fed and kept warm. It's all the same to me as long as I'm fed and kept warm." I wonder if there's any parallels to that today. Oh, oh yeah, like people in Hollywood, for instance. Okay. Anyway, Marshall finished his letter by saying that he could not in good conscience stay silent, even for the sake of fame and fortune. He said, quote, "I could remain and continue to self-censor, but it will erode my sense of integrity, gnaw at my conscience. I've already felt that beginning. The only way forward for me is to leave the band." And I believe him. And it certainly is going to come at a cost. I mean, I'm sure he's doing just fine anyway. But essentially, he's saying he doesn't want to sell his soul. And I'm choosing to believe him. Good for him. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Please subscribe, like, and share. That really helps me out. If you just like to listen, there's the podcast, Radio Baloney. It's on pretty much every platform. If you look for it, you will find it. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.